Hi, it's Dave Williams with 82. I'm really excited today. We're here in Costa Mesa, California with Dr. Joyce Kong. She's been a longtime EasyBow user, and we're going to make a terrific instructional video for you today. Joyce, thank you so much for helping us out today.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I've been using my EasyBow for about a year, and I absolutely love it. It's so easy to use, and I can't wait to show you guys how easy it is.
Terrific. Let's go ahead and get started. Wanted to take a minute to show you what you can expect when your EasyBow arrives. You'll see it comes in a beautiful silver box with some die-cut foam to hold your EasyBow, and here's all the essential goodies inside. You've got your EasyBow, your laser, a magnetic bubble cube, 20 index trays, and for those that order the complete EasyBow system, you'll also get the transfer platform that'll allow you to transfer the EasyBow index tray to the articulator. And lastly, it does come with an Allen wrench that if your laser ever gets bumped, that you think it may not be straight, you'll notice that it has some adjustment screws there for the Allen wrench. There's your pretty laser beam, and those will be the toys that you receive when your box arrives. It's not uncommon that we're asked from potential customers, if the EasyBow is so easy, is it accurate? Because I'm used to using a traditional face bow, and I have some questions about this. These are very valid concerns, so I wanted to talk a little bit about why you should use the EasyBow and what the advantages are. One of the key things about the EasyBow is it does not tie you to a specific brand of articulator. Historically, when you've had a face bow or a specific articulator brand, you've had to use the same articulator and face bow together. With an EasyBow, you can actually take that index tray record, and because now 82 has transfer platforms to fit most any brand of articulator, that index tray will transfer then successfully to any articulator you want. So one process with the EasyBow can go to any articulator that you like. People also ask, well, if it's this easy, it possibly can't be that accurate. That's also incorrect. The EasyBow is developed on the whole theory that there is a 100 millimeter distance from the incisal edge to the center of the hinge axis. Now, as relative compared to a face bow, University of Marquette prosthodontic department did a deep study in 2015, and they looked specifically for two items. One, does the EasyBow type fox plane bow position the incisal edge in an approximately the same position as a traditional anatomic bow? And secondly, does it capture the occlusal plane properly relative to an anatomic or traditional ear bow? What they found in their study was statistically there was no difference between the two. It delivered the same results. So we can say very confidently, if you use our EasyBow, you will get tremendously accurate results. Another advantage of the EasyBow is that there are no moving parts. This has a few advantages. First off, for your staff, for the doctor, it's much easier to use because you're not tightening bite fork stems, you're not having flexible arms to go in the ears. As well, once you've taken the EasyBow, rather than having a bite fork assembly that can slip or move in process to the lab, you simply have a static or fixed index tray that just snaps off the bow and then would snap onto a transfer platform at the lab side. And once they're done with that, they can simply dispose of the index tray instead of having to go ahead and chase you down to return the bite fork assembly to you. Another plus of the EasyBow, patient comfort. For those particularly doctors that have patients that are particularly a little uncomfortable with the dentist, a traditional ear bow is not a very pleasant experience for them. We all know that you've got pressure of the nasal relator against the bridge of the nose, as well as when the earpieces go in the canal and puts pressure, as well as translates a lot of sound and vibration to the patient. It's not a very good experience. With the EasyBow, you've got no moving parts, and the only part that makes contact with the patient is strictly in the mouth. So it's a much better experience for the doctor and patient. Another good point, the EasyBow is accurate. And what that means is your staff can finally take a good face bow. The doctor can take a good face bow. We hear from plenty of labs that they have never traditionally gotten face bow records from doctors. With the EasyBow, suddenly that doctor can provide better information than they've ever given to the lab. Why is this important? Because when the doctor can provide and communicate better with the lab can do more accurate work, and ultimately when they hand the work back to you, it's going to go in the patient's mouth and fit right the first time. This means less rework for the lab and less rework for the patient coming back to your office. It's a better experience for everybody. Finally, the EasyBow from 82, it's a digital-friendly item. How do I mean this? We've developed transfer platforms for every major articulator brand and digitized them now for both ExoCAD and 3Shape. With ExoCAD, they're actually doing an integration at the company level for our articulator and for all the different platforms to fit all the different articulator brands. With 3Shape, 82 will actually be making available for free download from our website or by calling us. You can request any digital platform you want, be it for Artex, for 82, for Stratos, whatever articulator you use. You can go ahead and get that download and work within that software and do the transfers you need, either coming from an EasyBow or a Coice-Bow. We're looking forward to hearing from you. We hope you enjoy our EasyBow. When taking an EasyBow, you'll want to have the patient in the chair sitting upright or standing upright against a wall. Once positioned, we'll want to evaluate the patient's smile for a possible cant or a potentially very steep occlusal plane angle. With an EasyBow, you actually want the bite registration material to capture the cant, where you'll stack more bite registration material perhaps on one side of the index tray to account for a cant. Whereas in a standard traditional ear bow, the bite fork itself would normally rotate left-right in the case of a cant, or anterior-posterior in the case of a very steep occlusal plane. When using the EasyBow, you'll want to apply some type of bite registration material to the index tray itself. Shown here is using an adhesive AccuBite tab made by 82. You'll note that the tabs are positioned at approximately 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. You do not want to apply bite registration material at the very front of the tray nearest the vertical tab, located here at about the 6 o'clock position. The reason being is we're simply trying to capture some cusp tips on the index tray, and we want to make sure that we don't interfere with the central sizers being able to contact the vertical tab. In the instance that you don't want to use an adhesive tab, there are numerous dispensable bite registration compounds available, such as Futar DFAS, Blue Moose, and others. You would also apply them in the approximate same locations that you see here with the adhesive tabs. So we've evaluated Stephanie's smile and found that she has no cant to her smile and a relatively normal angle of occlusion on her plane. Based on this, we're going to go ahead and apply a normal amount of bite registration compound to the index tray, noting that we're simply trying to capture the cusp tips and not taking an impression. So you don't need to add a lot of bite registration material here. You'll note as well the position of the bite registration compound, and you can use a Futar DFAS or a Blue Moose or any number. We're going to go ahead and close the patient's eyes, position the bow outside the mouth to make sure that we have it lined up properly. And then once we've determined, we'll have the patient open their eyes so that we can see the pupillary line. We'll bring the bow in with the central incisors contacting the white vertical tab at the front of the tray. That's very important because that determines the 100 millimeter position from incisal edge to center of hinge axis. So we've got the bow in there. That looks real good. It's right on the midline. And we'll go ahead and let the bow sit up there. And if you could, let's open your eyes so we can see the pupillary line relative to the horizontal. Once this sets up, it's very handy to have the patient go ahead and support the bow and have the doctor step back and take a photo of the face where you've got a beautiful horizontal and vertical reference line for your case records. One side note, the laser used by 82 for the EasyBow is a Class 3R laser. It emits less than 3 milliwatts of power. Based on this rating, any unintended direct exposure has a very low risk to the patient. Nonetheless, when using it initially, if you would feel more comfortable having the patient's eyes closed while you position the bow, that's certainly fine, but you will want to have the patient open their eyes in the process so that you can judge the pupillary line relative to the horizontal. So we've gone ahead, we've completed it, the bite registration material is hardened up, and this is ultimately what you'd like to see is some real nice bite record on that index tray. Once you've concluded taking the EasyBow record from the patient, you'll want to go ahead and remove the index tray from the bow. There are two simple ways to do so. You can either grip the index tray on the sides of the tray and go ahead and pull off the bow, or a somewhat handy way is to simply take the bow and lightly press it on a flat countertop, which will eject the tray. Once you have the tray off the bow, Some find it handy as well to go ahead and write the patient's name on the underside of the tray for future reference. Once you've completed the EasyBow process with the patient and captured the maxillary record on the index tray, we'll want to go ahead and transfer it to the articulator. The way you'll do so is to ensure that the articulator incisal pin is set to 0. As well, we'll want to take the adjustable platform and inspect it to make sure it is also set to 0. Note that when the platform is set to 0, that will position the incisal edge exactly at 100 millimeters away from the center of the hinge axis. If you do need to adjust the height of the adjustable platform, you would use the thumb screw to go ahead and unlock it, and then use the thumb wheel and rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise to raise or lower it to the 0 mark. Once at the 0 mark, you would again use the thumb wheel to lock it in place. From there, you want to go ahead and take the index tray from the patient. Now, we've already cut the cusp tips down a bit to expose a nice record there, but you can otherwise use a surgical knife like this to go ahead and reduce the bite registration material. The reason we do that is because ultimately you just want to have enough of a cusp tip showing to position the maxillary cast properly without any interference from bite registration material. Once the tips are cut down properly, you want to snap the index tray onto the adjustable platform using the 4 index legs on the tray to snap in nicely. Snap it in firmly to be sure that the tray sits completely flush onto the adjustable platform. Once this is done, you'll then take the adjustable platform and move it over to the articulator and snap it to the lower magnetic base of the articulator like this. Once you've installed the adjustable platform on the lower magnetic base of the articulator, we'll want to go ahead and put the maxillary cast on the index tray. We'll do so by opening the articulator up 180 degrees and using the thumb screw on the side of the upper frame. Open it up and let the support pin drop down, and then use the thumb wheel to go ahead and lock that support pin in place again. We'll then take the maxillary cast and position it properly in the cusp tips. Note how the incisal edge sits firmly against the front vertical tab on the index tray. That's your check to make certain that the bite was taken at exactly 100 millimeters from the center of the hinge axis. Our next steps will be to go ahead and use a mounting plate and some stone and transfer the maxillary cast to the articulator permanently. With the maxillary cast seated firmly in the index tray, we'll want to go ahead and complete the transfer to the articulator. We'll take the magnetic mounting plate and snap it to the upper base on the articulator and take some stone. We'll first want to apply some to the mounting tray itself, and we'll want to put a fairly generous amount. We've got a good amount of space there, and we'll also want to make sure that we get that stone down into the plaster bridge firmly. As well, we'll want to put a small blob on the maxillary cast. And then when ready, close the upper frame of the articulator down onto the maxillary cast. With the articulator closed, we'll need to allow for some time for the dental stone to set. While setting, we may want to place our finger on the upper frame of the articulator to apply a slight bit of pressure to go ahead and ensure that as the stone dries and expands, that it doesn't distort the articulator mount. We'll be back in a moment to proceed. Once the stone is hardened, we'll want to go ahead and open the articulator up and replace the index tray with the waxing spacer. When initially opening the articulator, you'll want to take the articulator out of centric so that as you open the maxillary cast from the articulator, the incisal edge does not interfere with the vertical tab on the index tray. So let's go ahead and take the articulator out of centric by depressing the black centric lock in back as well as the centric plate behind it. We'll apply just a slight bit of pressure at the front of the frame to go ahead and move the incisal edge slightly back away from the tab and then up. As we open the articulator, we'll put it back into centric and then continue to open it, and we'll open the support pin up and let it drop to the tabletop, lock it in place. Once we've done this, we'll want to go ahead and remove the adjustable platform from the articulator and remove the index tray from the platform top. We'll replace it with the waxing spacer. The reason we do this is the waxing spacer is the exact same thickness as the index tray, 80 thousandths. In this instance, we've done an evaluation and decided that we need to add 2 millimeters of incisal length to this patient. So we would go ahead and unlock it with the thumb screw and then use the thumb wheel at the top to adjust the platform down 2 millimeters. Once we've done so, we'll use the thumb screw to go ahead and lock the platform back in place and replace the platform to the lower frame of the articulator firmly with the magnetics. Once done, we'll then go ahead and close the articulator back up. And you'll now note that the maxillary cast is hovering approximately 2 millimeters or so above the tabletop. Once you've achieved this, you can then start waxing down to the tabletop to add incisal length as needed.